Ortiz, and I am the owner and CEO of the St. Eve Law Firm. We are located here in Towson, Maryland. We are a law firm focusing on estates and trusts, taxation, and family law matters. So I want to welcome you all to the Daily Attorney Podcast. This is a podcast where we just talk to attorneys about their day-to-day rituals and just everything that make them who they are. And with us today, I am very glad to announce that we have attorney Gwen Walker, who practices one of my lovely areas. She focuses on, taxation law. Gwen, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. I'm Gwen Walker. I'm in the Metro Atlanta area. My practice is mostly virtual. I meet clients virtually, except when we need to meet in person to execute documents. My practice focuses on estate planning, so wills and trusts, powers of attorney, etc., and IRS defense, as some people call it. And within that, I mostly focus on people who are being audited or who have appeals cases before the IRS and cases with the United States Tax Court.
So you mostly focus on tax controversy matters?
Yes.
That is an area that is definitely near and dear to my heart. So with that said, what brought you to the area of estates and trusts and tax controversy?
Tax controversy is something I did for years. I spent an entire career with the Internal Revenue Service, from auditing tax returns until I actually went to law school part-time in the evenings while I was auditing tax returns. So once I got my law degree, I was lucky enough to get on in the legal department, the Office of Chief Counsel, and spent the last 20 plus years of my career there as a litigator and a manager for attorneys for the IRS. So where we advise the IRS as well as litigate cases.
So you have a bit of a different insight, when litigating these cases, right? Because you've sat on you sat on both sides of the aisle. Yes. So I guess I'm interested when your clients come in and you tell them that you're a former IRS auditor, for 20 plus years. What sort of reaction do you get?
Usually they're surprised and happy. I think people feel confident that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it puts them at a bit of an ease, right?
I think so, yes.
So can you kind of just walk the people through why you decided to become an attorney? Because, you've had a wonderful career with the IRS, right? So most people would think, well, let me stay right here where it's comfortable and I know the job and I know exactly what to do and how to do. But you kind of did it on two folds. You decided to become an attorney and open your own law practice.
That is true. Yes, I had the idea to go to law school actually forever. Those of you who are old enough to remember LA Law, that was one of the major law shows on TV, but I've always wanted to be an attorney. So even as I was working as a revenue agent, I always had it in the back of my mind that I was going to go to law school someday. And that day came when actually I kind of started learning how to set goals and think higher and make bigger goals for myself. Because years ago, prior to my going to law school, a friend of mine said, hey, let's go to North Carolina Central for law school. And that's an hour drive from Greensboro, for those who don't know. And I said, I'm not driving to Durham, blah, blah, blah. So, but that was my mindset. But once I got a higher mindset, I was like, oh, it's only 1 hour drive to get a law degree. So I changed my mindset and was ready to go ahead and start working on that goal. So while I was working at the IRS, I got my law degree.
Now, speaking of goals and mindset, I know we thank you again for doing this. I know I reached out to you and I said, hey, you want to be on my podcast? We're launching in January. And if you want to be, our first guinea pig to work this with us, and you stepped up to the plate and you said yes. And it's hilarious because we hadn't even met, we hadn't talked. But when we did, we hit it off. And I think it's particularly because of what you mentioned and you stated mindset and goals. One thing we bonded on is just wanting to do better for ourselves and our practices. And I know earlier we were talking and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And I'm still nervous, right? And you said, I'm fine. It's like, well, why? How are you fine, right? And you said, because, I meditated and I prayed and I grounded myself. So I guess that, kind of brings me to this question, we're attorneys, but we're also humans, right? Mm-hmm. But we're also business owners. And, some of us are parents, some of us are spouses. And some of us, this is our, third, fourth career and may even be a side hustle. So how do you kind of maintain that idea that I'm grounded? How do you maintain that peace that you have within you when you are in a profession that is so high strung in certain, in certain areas?
Well, don't let me give anybody the impression that I've been doing this all my life, because heaven knows anybody who's litigated a case, that is stress on a level 10. So I wish I knew then what I know now. But so just over the years, I've always kind of stayed in the space of, I don't want to call it self-improvement, but self-actualization. I've always wanted to know more about myself and how to do more and serve more. So I've tried to add different practices and habits for having a better life. So it's something like this where I want to feel like I'm serving and helping people, and especially being on camera. I knew I needed to be grounded so that I could be focused and be of service. So.
Yeah. Now, I love that. And so for something like this, or, anything that may be, high strung or stressful, do you meditate? Do you, and if so, like, how long do you usually meditate?
Because I have the privilege of being in charge of my own schedule, I really don't put a clock on how long I meditate. Sometimes it's 5-10 minutes, sometimes it's 20. And that involves lots of different things. I might set, I like the app Insight. I know that people.
Oh, that is a wonderful app. Oh my goodness.
And it's free, unlike the other two that are.
And it's free.
Yeah. So I might do that, or just, I like silence, doing some inspirational reading and then just sitting in silence with my eyes closed, to hear from myself, to hear from my higher power, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's evolved over time, and it might be different depending on the day or what's ahead of me.
Yeah. And I completely understand that. You touched on something else earlier about goal setting. One thing, I've learned just as a business owner over the years is you have to know where you are and where you want to go, right? And I think as attorneys, we are so risk averse. We are always trying to protect ourselves, protect our clients, and kind of maintain this bubble of comfort. And, it wasn't until I would say probably 4 years ago, as I had my practice, I started really like getting into, goal setting, and just that practice is so important, so important. How would you say that, goal setting has kind of helped you in your business, or just in your personal life to really achieve the things that you want to do?
Yeah, it causes me to be forward thinking. And, there's a lot of literature out there about being what it is that you be, the person that has that goal, as opposed to just saying, I want this goal. You try to be that person who already has that goal. So I find that helpful. And when you said risk averse, the first word that popped into my mind was faith. Not that you can't be reasonable about assessing risk, and that's very important, especially professionally speaking. But when you're trying to keep bad stuff out, you also keep good stuff out. So that just, that risk averse thing. So that's where the term stepping out on faith comes from.
So yeah, and I mean, I definitely think you stepped out on faith when you opened your own law firm. right? I know I did. It was like, okay, I'm not going to wait for opportunities. I'm going to create them, you know? What has been, for me in my practice, I think the biggest hurdles, but like when you look at goals, at least for me, I have small goals and I have medium goals and I have huge audacious goals. But I think one of the biggest things for me is organizing all that, because you need to organize your goals and you need to organize your practice. How do you stay organized in your practice to not only achieve those goals, but maintain that level of sanity and, that groundedness that your clients really do need? Because tax controversy is a pretty high strung area versus the estate planning portion, which is completely docile.
Yeah. To stay focused, and again, this is evolving, and I'm certainly no expert. Starting last year, I started putting up in different areas in the house what my quarterly goals were, to keep them top of mind, because the first year I started, I was just like, whatever happens, happens. And if I get some clients, great. If not, then I'll work harder or whatever. But I find it's very valuable to be focused, be trying to hit a target, as opposed to just, whatever the wind blows, and I think you act differently when you're moving towards something, you're trying to achieve something.
Yeah, and I agree, and I resonate with that so much. When I first opened my practice, like you did, it was, listen, whatever client comes through the door, you have to serve them, because it's ultimately you have to eat. But as time went on, I realized, okay, I'm really in love with 3 different areas. So let me, pare it down a bit. What are some challenges that you face as a professional attorney and business owner and human, right? Because you have a life outside of being an attorney. Like, what are some challenges that you face as a result of that?
I'd say, well, there's as you know, a lot of learning that goes on to just running a business. You've got to learn about marketing, get your tech right.
Yeah, law school didn't teach us how to run a business,
Yeah.
right?
So
Just did it.
I have a leg up on the accounting side because I know what the books and records are supposed to look like, but there's a lot involved. So even when you need some marketing, but there's so many layers and subcategories to marketing, especially for attorneys. So the challenge is learning all this stuff, learning about what kind of technology is out there. And there's a lot of stuff out there for business owners. So I'm very happy about the timing of being in business now, because there's, so much help out there. So I'd say that just staying with the learning curve. I'd also say maybe setting boundaries is an issue too. I don't feel like I have a difficulty in that area, but you can't take calls up all hours of the day and night, or you can't, um, spend all your free time working on client cases. So I'd say boundary setting is another issue.
I think boundary setting is big though, because we're already in a profession where we love to serve and we love to resolve issues, but boundary setting is huge because you want to help everyone, right? And I think what COVID opened up a lot of doors for us in ways that we didn't even think it was possible, especially for people who thought about working virtually. It was, whoa, I actually can work virtually and I can still make money. We belong to some really cool Facebook groups where a lot of the attorneys talk about how their practices grew. So it's just like amazing. And this was all virtual. But I think COVID also did us, and I speak for myself too, a huge disservice, because you would wake up and do, if you had an hour routine, it would kind of be whittled down to about 20, 30 minutes, and then you hit the computer, right? You just work. And then you'd work and you'd work and you'd work and you'd work. And you look up and the sun is down. and you're like, oh my gosh, it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock sometimes, because it started blurring those home work, lines that we used to have. So it's actually one of the reasons why I was happy to come back to the office, because I found that I just was not, I thought I was productive. I guess maybe I was, but I was overworking, and I already had that overworking mentality that most young attorneys such as myself have. So, we're still working on it, but I definitely think that COVID kind of did a disservice to a lot of us when it comes to just keeping those lines clear. I don't know if your experience was like that, but.
I agree. I was working a lot at home before then, but I do agree with that as far as the time getting away from you. I try now to use time blocking on my calendar so that there's certain hours of the day that I work on the business, certain days that I take clients, and certain days set aside for executing documents, etc. So I'm trying the time blocking right now, and so far I've liked it.
Yeah, I've tried that too. I don't know if I have the the how do I say this? I don't want to say commitment, but I don't know if I have the patience for time blocking. I do, in a sense, I do time blocking, but it's very different. So I do day blocking. So for example, on Fridays, no appointments, no court, nothing. I don't want anything on my calendar. What are your examples of your time block? Like, when do you meet with clients versus, working on the business and in the business?
Yeah, and see, Monday is my day for that, because Fridays are fine. I love Fridays, so I don't working on Friday and or meeting with clients. So Monday is my day. I've actually blocked it off, called Marketing Monday, where I'm trying to work on the business, and I'm always trying to increase the client experience. So if I can update some forms or make this process easier, so that's Monday is the day I set aside for that, and I almost never, I don't know if I have taken clients on Mondays since I started that. I try to do estate planning clients on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and tax clients maybe on a Thursday. Those things might, bleed over into each other if necessary, to accommodate a client schedule. And I actually like to do executions, meaning signing meetings for the estate planning documents on Friday. It feels like a nice fun day to get something like that completed, so the client can celebrate, etc. So
yeah, estate planning execution meetings are always they're always fun. I think I try to make them fun. Have conversations with the client, and I always close with such a cheesy line, but I always close with, "Okay, this doesn't mean that you get to bungee jump immediately, okay?" And 100% of my clients are like, "Yeah, no, I don't do that on any other day. I'm not doing it on this day."
It's funny you say that, because that's one of my running themes when I'm doing a presentation. I feel like once you get that taken care of, now you can go live your life, as opposed to being concerned about what's going to happen. Once you get everything in place, I mean, that's the way I felt.
That is true. But please, please, please speak to me about your presentations. I saw that on one of our posts in the Facebook group, and I was like, I have to ask her about that, because you gave me a really, really cool idea to kind of just start doing, like, maybe once a month or every 2 weeks, have like an open group chat where, members of the public, of course, in my state, unless it's a tax matter, then it can be all over the US, but where they can ask questions, and, I can be out there, but please speak to us about that.
Yeah, I like to do that when that's one of my resolutions for this year, is to try to have more of them and maybe get on a regular schedule, like you just said, once a month. But people need to be educated. A lot of people don't know what happens with respect to deeds. And of course, what happens if they don't have a will? What are the drawbacks? What is a trust? There's lots of stuff on social media especially on TikTok, about, oh, get a trust, well, everybody doesn't need a trust, as you know.
No, they don't.
Yeah. So I see it as a form of service and education, just so people can know. So even whether you hire me or not, I at least want you to know that, this is what's going to happen to your property if you don't have documents in place.
Do you find, at least in my practice, I get a lot of I don't have anything, Marie's, or, oh, I wrote it down somewhere. My
Yes.
kids know what to do.
Yeah,
Do you get that?
I do. And I try to emphasize it. Well, then give them the authority to actually carry that out rather than having to go to court and become the administrator and,
Yeah.
And then wonder, well, I wonder who should get this, or, wonder what to do with your assets. So
Yeah.
just make it easier. Make it easy on your family.
Yeah. And because of COVID, I've had a lot more probate cases that I would, more than I care to admit, unfortunately, because of COVID. But one of the things I'm finding is my personal representatives, who are usually, a sibling or a spouse, they're, as soon as the estate is done, they're like, okay, Marie, I need to plan with you now, because they realize, they see the chaos that comes from not planning. And I don't know about you, but I'm Haitian American. And in my country, it's sort of taboo to, sit somewhere and plan, okay, well, what happens, if I die or something like that. It's really more so, whatever I have is what I have. I always tell people the story of, my grandmother, who thought it was okay to put money under a mattress, and she passes away, and it's like, what do you do with this? Right? Not a good idea. So I just come from a culture where planning is not, put out there. It's just not advocated as much. So me as an attorney, what I'm trying to do and what I hope to do, and hopefully one day I can partner with you on this, is to kind of do these seminars, right, where we can educate members, especially just the entire US, but members of the Brown community, really. Because I think that, we have a lot more catching up to do than most. Yeah.
I agree. Yes, and talk about the Brown community. A lot of people don't have access to an attorney to ask the questions or learn that information. So, I feel like it's a service that I need to do.
I agree, because when I tell people that, I'm an attorney, and it's kind of a bittersweet thing, because when you tell someone you're an attorney and they say, oh, I've never met a Brown attorney. What?
Wow.
And then when you read that we are such a small percentage of the legal community, it's like your mind is blown. And this is kind of, one of the main reasons why I have this podcast is my goal is to highlight, women of color and, minority groups who just happen to be attorneys, but are just normal humans doing everyday things, like yourself, meditating and grounding yourself, and, being very, strong-willed about your faith and things like that just make you human. Because I think a lot of times our clients don't really see us as that. They just think, oh, this is someone helping me on this. And it's like, yeah, but this is also someone with a family and a spouse and a house and a car.
But it's true of all of us. With all these people in our lives, sometimes we forget that they are human.
I definitely think so. Now, to change trajectories a little bit, the first time we spoke, we talked about, the mindfulness and just, changing our thoughts and our ways through coaching. And you introduced me to Deborah Hesling, right? And I apologize, Deb, if I'm butchering your name, but I was able to reach out to her, and, we had an exploration call. And this is another thing that was, bittersweet. And maybe, you can talk about your growth from that. But talking to coaches, and this is not my first coach, I'm always up for personal development. Like that is just my thing, right? Because I tell everybody what brought me here cannot take me there, right? Because I'm here already, right? I have to continue to develop. But just working with her kind of just showed me that I had more work to do. Has that kind of been your experience as an attorney and just as a human, developing yourself? Like what has been your experience in getting to know you and just being a better attorney to be of service to your community?
Well, yeah, and I think that's the key, because I feel like if I'm a better me, then I can be a better friend, a better spouse, not that I'm a spouse right now, but just better overall, and better in my practice. So I am always looking for the next book or the next YouTube video or the next podcast. That's how I spend my free time. I just love listening to that stuff because I am fascinated by human behavior, and a lot of this information, the sources that I look to give me some insight into me and even other people. So if I was not doing this, I would be a life coach. In fact,
oh my gosh,
I was sitting in a coaching class, teaching people how to be a life coach. This was like the first session, and then there was going to be a more expensive one. So this was the mini one. And somebody raised their hand and said there was a question about taxes. And I said, oh, maybe I'm actually needed in private practice doing it. Because I don't know, it's just something kind of hit me like, maybe this isn't what you need to be doing. You need it elsewhere. So I kind of just took that as a sign that maybe I won't pursue this at the moment, but it's still something that I want to do, or, that's not off the table. I put it that way.
Well, I mean, you can still incorporate it in your practice, right? Because ultimately we coach our clients to protect their families. Ultimately, we coach them how to not make, tax mistakes in the future, right? Because, and maybe you can enlighten us, but one of the biggest issues in the tax controversy area is the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. Two of the most highly abused, highly misunderstood, and highly audited credits. And I mean, maybe you can shine some light on that.
Yeah, because they are refundable credits. Because usually if you have a credit, it just goes to zero down your tax and that's it. But some credits are refundable, meaning you can even get money back if you hadn't paid into it, because usually that's how you earn the credit. But these don't require that. So that's why there's such a spotlight on them, because it's this money coming out of the treasury. They want to make sure the people that are getting it are entitled to receive it. And because it's so much money, there's lots of fraud and wrongdoing under those subjects. So that's another reason there's so much focus.
Do you find that when you're educating the public, do you find that there's a huge misconception about that? And you kind of really have to go in on the differences between refundable and non-refundable credits?
No, that's not a subject that I've had to really talk to anybody about. That's not an issue I've had with the client to this point. So, and yeah, I guess really when I'm just thinking about it, there's not as much information. There is, the government does a good job of letting you know this is available and this is out there, but I'm not sure I hear what you have to do to qualify for it either, so maybe that's something missing from the message that's out there.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. Yeah, the IRS website, and that's irs.gov. There's so many publications on there that I remember when I was in law school, I would go on there, before we had exams, because sometimes our case books did a little more confusing than it did clearing up. So, I would go to the irs.gov website in order, to look up something. I remember one of the ways that I learned how to, so I've been doing my own taxes since like I started working, talking, 20 years. And so I kind of just fell into, preparing income tax returns. And let me ask you, do you prepare returns for your clients? You do not. Okay. I actually do. I do. And you'd be, yeah, I do. I do that as part of the tax bubble in my firm. We do tax controversy and tax preparation. I'm not really a fan of tax planning. I don't feel, that tax planning is my thing. So I've kind of left that off the table in my practice. Is that something you think that you'd, offer in the future?
I don't think so, because that requires a lot of researching and,
Yeah.
it requires some time to be competent and stay up on things, and with respect to certain industries, et cetera. So that's not how I want to spend my time. I want to spend my time with the things that I am expert at.
Yeah.
Yes, auditing and appeals and tax court. So that's the value that I bring. So that's how.
So if any clients want to reach out to you, how can they best connect with you?
Oh, they can email me at Gwen, Gwen, at walkwithwalker.com. They can call me and leave a message with the assistant at 470-499-4946. There's also a link on my website if you want to just set up a free 20-minute discovery call just to talk about whether we're a good match to work together. And that's at walkwithwalker.com.
I love that. Most, I don't know too many tax attorneys. I'm in the state of Maryland, and, we have a select few firms here that are all about, taxes. Some of them are just taxes. So it's always lovely to meet, a person of color, someone who is doing her thing and just loves what she does. I feel like, you bring a lot to the table, and I thank you. I look forward to meeting you one day. Hopefully, we can see each other at the, I think it's the David Nagel.
Yeah, in April.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go. I am going to go.
Okay.
Yeah, at first.
I'll get ready.
I know. At first I was like, I don't know if I want to go. And as I feel like I did a lot of traveling in 2021, and I don't know how COVID is going to be for 2022.
Yeah, true. It's always a caveat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a pain in the butt. So I know that the last time they had the summit, he ended up doing it virtually. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the case now, but I am going to go. So, I have your phone number. I'll hit you up, and, you can meet each other there and, have some fun. So I'm not going to keep you too long because, as you know, I am a talker.
Well, Marie, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be your first guest.
It is, and thank you. I can't thank you enough for agreeing to do this. I was, super nervous, and I wanted to do something that wasn't just sitting behind the desk and pounding those books all day. So I'm really happy that I got to do this with you. Thank you again, Gwen. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Again, my name is Marie Jean Baptiste, and you can find us at St. Eve Law Firm. The stevelaw.com. The name of the firm is the St. Eve Law Firm. We are located here in Towson, Maryland. We specialize in estates and trust law, family law, and taxation law. And you've just witnessed a very special guest, Attorney Gwen Walker, who practices estates and trust and taxation law. And thank you again for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.